Hi, I'm Rainer, and welcome to my train room. I picked this kit up. It's a building kit. I picked it up sometime in the last year at a train show. Again, one of these inexpensive kits that I picked up. The bag has been opened, but I'm hoping everything is in it. It's a City Classics. It says 2005 City Classics, so it means it's a 20-year-old kit at this point. And it is supposed to be the West End Market Kit, a little grocery store, but it can be used for a variety of businesses according to the packaging. And so we will see what is included in it and see if all of the parts are here. I hope they are. So what do I have here? I have a bag with, I'm wondering if this even came with it. I don't know, because it's Railroad Express Company, Gruesome Casket Company. It looks like some sign has already been cut out and used. It's in a Ziploc bag. And what else is in here? There are several types of old gas pumps, which is kind of cool if I want to use it for a gas station or something. Yeah, there's all kinds of little barrels and detailed parts and wheels and, well, anyway, I don't think this is part of the kit, but I'll see what I can use out of there. And then what do we have here? We have advertising for the windows, potatoes, onions, things like that. And these are the supermarket signs that are supposed to come with it. So they're here. And what else? It looks like a relatively simple kit. Just still hoping that all the parts are here. Obviously this clear is for the windows. So let's see if I've got all the parts. This is obviously the roof. This half round piece is for the vertical sign. It looks like I've only got one of those pieces, so got something missing already. But I suppose I can build it without that sign. This will be the doorway. This is one of the walls. That's the other wall going the other way. So that's there. The two brick walls are here. So it looks like I've got all the basic parts I need. So at first glance, I think what I'm going to end up doing with this thing is taking everything off the sprues, cleaning up the burrs on the edges here and all the flash, and I don't even know what that part is. I will set those up. It looks like railings from some other kit that somebody's just thrown them in the bag. So I think what I'm going to do now is just clean all of this up and glue the walls together, and then I will, just like I've done on a number of my other buildings, I will spray paint the whole thing black, flat black primer. And the reason I do that is because of how I end up painting brick on the outside. It gives me a good dark foundation, and then you'll see how I end up doing that. But it also means that if I paint it black, it means when I illuminate the building, I don't get any light transmission through the wall, so the light just comes out through the doors and window openings rather than making the walls glow. So the basic assembly of the building was pretty straightforward. There's just the four main wall sections and the short section that is the angled corner for the entrance doors. So I just cut those off the sprues and then sanded the edges to get the flashing off of them. And then I realized that a couple of spots where the walls joined together at a 90-degree angle, obviously the way the walls were molded, it ended up with the end of the wall that really needed to be nice and square was not perfectly square. So I sanded those edges, or those ends, the vertical ends of a couple of the walls where they had to join against another wall. I sanded those nice and square so I could get a better joint in there. And then I just glued it all together, and being a styrene kit, I used MEK, which is a solvent, and just held the walls together nice and tight, and then just put a small amount of MEK along the seam, which then just wicks in and basically solvent welds it together. And I also glued the canopy, or the little awning that goes above the front windows and the doors, onto the building. Once I had all the wall sections glued together, I took it in the other room, put it in my spray booth, and gave it a coat of black primer both inside and out. Once the black primer had dried, I decided to paint the brick, and I just used a couple of colors of reddish brown artist acrylic paint and brushed it onto the brick. Now, when I brush it on, I use a fairly stiff brush, and I don't put too much pressure on it when I paint it onto the brick, so that the paint goes onto the surface of the bricks but doesn't really go into too many of the mortar joints. So it leaves the mortar joints darker, and the black kind of shows through. And when I do the painting, I also kind of intentionally mix up the color a bit, using a couple of different colors of similar colors of this acrylic paint. So it ends up with not all the bricks looking the same color, and it gives you the look of old, kind of dirty brick, and the mortar joints shown through. To me, it works well. It's an easy way to make cheap brick walls look a lot more realistic. Once the acrylic paint on the bricks had dried, I masked those areas out, and then took the building back into my spray booth and sprayed all the remaining areas with just some flat white paint. I just decided that the tile areas, because the upper parts of the front walls and everything were look like this larger kind of tile, and I think white was going to work the best on it. So I did that. I sprayed all of that, and then once the white paint had dried and I removed the masking, I then started by painting the window frames and the door frames and the front of this little awning at the front with the red paint. Let that dry for a while, and then the smaller windows along the back and the other side of wall, and the small kind of service doors, I ended up painting with some gray paint, and then also painted the top of the awning with some gray paint as well. The windows, the red didn't cover everything completely in the first coat, so I ended up going back and touching them up with a second coat of paint. I also took a black paint pen and just touched up like the little door handle and the hinges on the little side door on the building, so that they weren't gray like the rest of the door. Now, the kit came with the wall sections, and then it also came with a flat piece of styrene that you were supposed to cut for the roof, but it didn't actually come with a floor. So what I decided to do was to cut another piece of styrene and use that for a floor, and then I just cut some little strips of wood to support that in place, because I wanted to have a floor in the building because I wanted to put an interior in it. So I needed to cut the floor for it. I also had some old Floquil grime weathering paint, so I brushed some of that onto all of the walls of the house, and then actually kind of washed it down with a little bit more, even more diluted, diasol diluted paint of the same grime paint, and just kind of washed it down to make the walls look a little bit dirty, and some of that settled into the cracks. And I did that on the brick walls as well as on the white walls and on the top of the awnings. So it ends up looking like a bit of a dusty, dirtier old building. Once all of that paint had dried, I then installed the window glass. It was just a clear piece of plastic that it came with, and I just had to cut that to size. So I just used super glue and glued that to the inside of the walls. Now, I wanted to leave the windows until this point because with all of the other painting and weathering and everything like that, I didn't want to get any of that on the windows, so it was easier just to leave it until all of that was done. So that gets me to what it looks like right now. So I've cut a small piece of foam core in here to put a little extra dividing wall, because this is the roof panel that came with it, and I've painted it black on this side. But on the other side, I put some little 4 micro LEDs that come out into this little 2-pin plug that's going to go through a hole in the floor. I still need to cut the hole down there. But by putting this little wall in, it gives me a place to tuck the wire in down and out through there. So when you look through the windows, you're not going to see the wire. Now, what I'm still going to do for interior on this building is I have a bunch of these 3D printed store fixtures or cabinets or whatever, little display shelves. And I've just I found some various pictures of store displays online and just printed them out on the color printer. They don't need to be high resolution or anything, because nobody's going to be really looking at to see what it is on the shelves, but it just makes it look like there's something on the shelves. So I've got these various shelves that I printed, and these are all files that I found on Thingiverse. And this is just another piece of foam core with some stuff. I can put it in the background. It'll look like some full shelves. And then I have I did this in Blender, just created a little cash register with a conveyor on it that's going to go in here somewhere. And then I've got some people to put in there as well. So the idea is that, so my plan right now is to position all this furniture and the various people in the store, glue them down, and then I'm going to put the roof on it. Now, I think I'm going to try doing it without the roof glued on. That way I can remove it if I need to for anything later. Now, the kit comes with just some little supports like this that you're supposed to glue on to hold the roof in place. And well, if I put lights in there, it's just going to be gaps around the edge of the wall. So what I did was I cut some strips of wood in here to hold the roof in place. So once I put the roof on, those will keep it from falling in. And hopefully I'll be able to keep the roof removable. I'm still going to have to put some roof details on it and paint the roof because it's just too clean and black right now. I just primed the top of it with some black primer, again, to stop the light transmission through it when I put the lights on. So right now what I'm going to do is start installing all of the store furniture and the people. And then once I get that done, I will be putting it on the layout and seeing what it actually looks like. So this is where I've decided to put my grocery store for now. It's just up the street from these other 2 buildings that I built in a previous video. This was another kit that I did recently. And my lumber mill is over here. So this is kind of my little, going to be kind of my small town or village. The main urban center is going to be down on the lower deck at the other end, and that's where I've got my KFC, and that's where I've got some more kind of city-like buildings. But this is going to be kind of like a small town scene. So I've got a little bakery here. I've got a little restaurant with, I guess, apartments above it. I've got a little grocery store here, and I've got a few other buildings that I want to build in for here. So for now, this is kind of where I think I'm going to put it. I put the roof in it. The roof is removable. I didn't glue it down. It's just painted flat black right now. I still need to do some weathering on it and things like that. But some of the glue that I used to glue the air conditioner and vent units, I added a few details on the roof. The glue wasn't quite dry for those, so I'm just going to leave it, and then later I can pop the roof off pretty easily and or maybe even just leave the roof on it, and I can just add some more weathering and some other paint. I'll probably just do that with some acrylics. But it's here. It's got 4 of those little micro LEDs in it, so it lights it up. It's not super bright, and I find sometimes people on their layouts, they put lights in things that are almost unrealistically bright. So I'm trying not to do that. I want it to be kind of subtle, so when you turn the lights off in the room or turn the lights down, you can see that they're illuminated, but I don't want them glowing like they're, they've got the sun turned on in the room. So if you look in the room, because it's a foreground building, I decided to do a little bit more detail on this thing. You can see there's shelves full of products in there. There's people in there shopping. There's somebody standing at the cash register, and so it adds a little bit more detail to it than I've done in some of the other buildings. Now this one, if you look back in my older video, the windows that came with these kits were kind of opaque. They're not very clear. So I added some people sitting at tables close to the front, but there's not a whole lot going on in the back of the room. And the same with this one. There's some stuff in here. There's some people standing inside, but the windows aren't clear enough to be able to see in to see really what's happening in there. Whereas this one has nice, clean, clear windows. So I decided to add some more detail to it. And when you look in there, it doesn't look like an empty room. So a little bit more weathering to do on the roof, and I think I'm happy with how it turned out. It adds a little basic, simple little grocery store to my little town here. Nothing complicated, very simple kit to build, but just adding those extra little bit of detail inside, a little bit of weathering on it, and it looks a lot better than just the basic plastic kit. Like I've said in some of my earlier videos, if you go to a train show or something and you see some of these basic kits, inexpensive kits for sale, pick them up. They're really good basis to sometimes build something a lot nicer than you think they would be. So just encouraging you to, look at some of these cheaper kits you see and pick them up. Like this one was a really easy build. Spent a little bit of time doing some painting on it, and it turned out okay. Like always, thanks for watching. See you next time.